There was a period in my life where I honestly did not know who I was. I wasn't who I wanted to be, but I couldn't find a way for me to change. Even now, a lot of people don't know who I am, mostly because I've kept to myself and I've only opened up to very few people. But it seems that that doesn't matter, because even when no one really knew me, it didn't stop them from talking about me. I've been called many things. Some are not appropriate and far from accurate, and some are just silly. But how is it that the silly things hurt more than the inappropriate things? It's because people don't know me. I've been called a downer several times from people who don't know who I am, and if they did know me, they wouldn't judge my every move, every time I wasn't afraid to face my fears, every time I got the courage to be upset. From what I've gathered, a downer is someone who is constantly upset, or the party pooper, basically. It's not so bad, and like I said, it's rather silly. It's not offending, but I believe in not judging someone without knowing where they come from. It's not only knowing, but actually understanding their past. Because it's someone's past that has made them who they are, and what defines their view of the world. In my past, it has defined me. It was my second year of high school, and I was barely starting. Within the first couple of weeks, a boyfriend of almost 2 years left me. I lost most of my friends because of it, and things at home were falling apart. It wasn't the breakup that affected me, but the fact that things in relationships were breaking down all around me. Because those friends strayed away, I didn't have anyone to turn to. There were a couple that stayed longer than others, but I eventually began pushing them away when I began to sink deeper and deeper into a hole I didn't know I had created. When friends aren't there, you always have family, right? No. It wasn't until I had realized that things at school weren't good that I realized that things at home weren't any better. I hadn't realized it before, but while I had put all my energy in friends, my own family had been falling apart around me. To this day, I don't know the reason why my parents had been fighting, because I never asked and I never wanted to know. All I can remember is seeing my mother cry all the time, my father being angry all the time, and my sister trying to hold our little brother together while the parents fought. As a little kid, he always blamed himself, and that made my sister angry. It was constant fighting, and no one knew what to do or say in order not to start another round of arguments, but that didn't mean anyone thought twice about what they said. From what I recall, there was this one specific thing that was constantly said. One day, I'll leave this house. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I'm leaving and I'm never coming back. Out of 5 people living in that household, 3 people said it constantly, referring to running away and finding a happier place. But out of those 3, only one didn't care about a happier place. One person didn't want to be at home, or in another home, or on this earth. I decided I didn't want to live anymore. At this point, I had spent several weeks on my own at school and several weeks of hearing arguments at home, and I didn't know what else to do. There wasn't a safe place for me to go to, or anyone to turn to, and I believed I could get over it on my own. Maybe if I made myself invisible, things could get better. But life doesn't work that way. The first time the thought of suicide crossed my mind, it scared me. I pushed those thoughts away, but as time went on and I felt lonelier than the previous day, I contemplated it more and more, finding more reasons for me to do so. I started cutting again, more regularly, and no one noticed, because no one paid attention to me anymore. I was barely getting by in my classes, because most of the time I was crying in the back of the room, teachers nor students caring. My grades dropped because I didn't try. I didn't have a reason to. If you were to look at my transcript today, you'd see my lowest grades were from that year. There are 4 different events I recall happening in this month. The first is the first time I had a panic attack. It was marching season, and I think we were preparing to go to Santa Cruz. We had been marching up and down the street, practicing left hazes and right hazes, and staying in parade rest. I remember worrying about my sleeves riding up and revealing my wrists, but even when they did, no one noticed. And if anyone did, no one said anything. When we were walking back to the band room, I felt really off. I didn't feel sick, but rather scared and hopeless, and I didn't know why. I started shaking, and when someone asked if I was okay, I ran out of the room in tears. I only remember my section leader rushing after me and holding me even after I tried to pull away. I didn't know at the time what was wrong with me because I had never had a panic attack, but the attack itself scared me. I felt so hopeless and out of control. I couldn't control my shaking or my crying, and as people asked what was wrong, I couldn't answer them. I really did not know what was going on with me. The next 3 events happened after I had been contemplating suicide. After a long morning, I couldn't take it. I only remember feeling so lost and running into the library during lunch to write in my journal to keep me from doing something stupid. I remember thinking that I could walk up campus, just go anywhere. What if I didn't come back? Maybe they could find my body in a ditch somewhere. Who knew? Who cared? It was the first time I ever considered and was so close to running away, not caring what would happen to me. The second thing might have happened that day or some days after, but as I got home to the expected mess of a home, I couldn't hide my tears. As my mother was crying in another room, I was in mine, in tears, curled up, not knowing what to think or do. I remember my sister coming in and holding me close and telling me to hold on. I remember telling her I couldn't do it anymore, that I just wanted to be gone and be one less problem. But she looked me in the eyes and told me, "Did you ever think that I might need you here? Did you ever think that Alexander might need you? What am I supposed to tell him? What am I supposed to tell him if you leave? We need you." That was the day I didn't know what to think, and for once, it wasn't in a bad way. I really don't know when the third event happened or why, but one day I was going through the radio, switching through stations, and I came across a Christian radio station. I started listening to it all the time, leaving aside my iPod. It made me get positive, and more importantly, it gave me hope that one day things could get better. After a few days, I began talking to people again, finding old friends and hanging out with them at lunch. And it took a while to be okay again. It still took months to recover from those dark months. Towards the end of the year, however, while I was no longer feeling suicidal, I still cut. When 2 of my friends who stood by throughout all those months found out, they went to the office and talked to my counselor, who later put me in counseling sessions at the Hope Center. After that year, when things started looking up, I realized that I didn't ever want to feel that way again. No one should ever deserve to feel worthless, and while someone even said it was a cry for attention, it wasn't. Falling into such a depression to the point where you seriously consider taking your own life, that's not a cry for attention. I didn't choose to feel that way. If I had had the choice, I would have changed things so that I would have never felt that way. Since then, I feel suffocated and empty at rare times. I still feel afraid, but I know I can get through it because I have a lot to live for. I have friends and family to live for. And sometimes it does get bad, but I can't help it. It's not something I can control. And that's why it bothers me when people call me a downer for feeling upset. They don't know how I feel or why feeling the slightest bit of hopelessness in myself scares me so much. I am still afraid of falling into that hole again, and while I'm still fighting, it doesn't give them a reason to judge me without knowing where I come from. Today, I am a senior and I'm about to graduate with my class in about a month. I will have fulfilled the requirements for the performing arts and A3G pathways while being a 4-year band member. I have been fighting to gain trust in myself again, and while I have hit quite a few bumps in the way, I keep moving forward. Now, as a senior, and almost a year and a half after that period in my life, I know who I am and what I believe in. I am strong, even when I don't feel like it, even when others try to bring me down. I got a second chance at living, and not a lot of people get this chance. Therefore, I believe in second chances and believing in oneself. I believe that you can't let second chances pass you by, Because if you're lucky enough to recognize that chance, you should grab it and never let it go. I believe in believing in yourself, because when you're at your lowest and alone, there's no one else to do so, only you. I believe in not judging others, because you just never know where they come from. Think before you speak, because you never know just how much damage you're doing to someone. This, I believe,